All right. So I know we mentioned the suspense, like the react suspense. Anybody have any other questions or anything about Next? Any confusion or anything about Next.js or anything that we went over in the homework?
We can, we can go through the partial pre-rendering, if that what,
Mm.
what's happened, that explain
The partial pre-rendering?
Pre-render.
I got you. Hello, hello. Let's see. So where's it at? Where's it at?
I noticed they had like, this is how your code is supposed to look.
Mm-hmm.
By now. I'm kidding. That's messed up. But
Well, I'm sure they might somewhere because it's always good to cross-reference to make sure you got it.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure they do have a completed version in the GitHub somewhere. Okay. So, with what is it? The suspense. So suspense is something that's native to React. So it's not a Next.js feature, it's a React feature. So what suspense does is while your content is loading, if it's not ready to be rendered, suspense is going to use your fallback component to display whatever you want in the meantime. So like if you are loading like a web page and you see like the little circle, that's something that can be done using suspense, right? So what's happening is we're importing suspense and then we are wrapping our component in suspense. So the component that you want to be dynamically rendered, right? So while this component is loading, then it's going to use for the suspense, it's going to use the fallback, that fallback component. So whatever component that you declare there is what it's going to display while it is loading that content up, essentially. Does that make a little bit more sense? So it's not really too much to that you have to think about. It's just because I know it can be a little confusing, but it's just about making sure that it's wrapped. So I want to say
Honestly, that part, we had to like remove like the props, we like, we couldn't do a property word, so that could just be, it was like calling itself or something, like, everything we had to like delete, I was like confused, but we had to.
you have to. Okay.
It's a sense for I understand, like, I understood it was smart.
Okay, so it was like a particular.
Everything they had is, it was like more complicated than that. Like,
I got you. Let's see. Well, you say it was chapter 10, right?
I think that was, suspense.
Streaming. Let me see. Okay. Okay. So this is the part you're talking about where it introduces suspense into the application.
There's,
Can y'all see that screen okay?
yeah, yeah, it's,
Okay. So it's adding suspense and then revenue chart and then the fallback is revenue chart skeleton. So just so you aware, a skeleton is like when you load a web page and you see like the little box with the little shade, that's, yeah. So those are skeletons. So that's just what it's rendering in place of it. So we're talking about this part.
Okay, so we started things.
yeah,
Yes. So we removed that function for every chart.
I got to the last one. I got through it all. I just, didn't get a chance to get to the last one.
Okay, so
My son woke up, but
got you.
like I did it, but I was like, why did I have to do all of this?
Why do you have to do that?
It was just kind of just odd.
Let's see.
Like you had to believe the original page that were already created, like the original colors, the original chart. They would pass in as a prop, because then you can't use it as a prop. You can't use a prop.
Okay, because then it has all the code before this, and then so it makes this component async and remove the props.
Yeah.
Okay. What were the props? Oh, this is a different.
I think it's in the first, because you had to create an overview, in
And
the dashboard folder, then a page. So then the prompts were either in the original dashboard page or on the charts.
I'm trying to remember. AC revenue make remove props. Cost revenue. Why did we have to do this? I
We'll
don't.
be able to see it next, I think you have to. You know, it may have to like open 2 pages.
2 pages. Okay. Let's see. So it's with the revenue chart. So did hold on, let's go back up. I think it was up
If
here.
you open the page on the website,
Uh,
you see everything, you see the dashboard, you see the revenue stuff. And then I think when we had to take it off, and then you start losing some of the things that are supposed to be displayed, like the people. I think that was the point.
yeah. So it was like incrementally like loading everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, the good point was, he was trying to show us like, what happens if one thing loads slower than the next?
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
you could just do a suspense and didn't do all of this, so it all loads.
Yeah.
Those, I think those,
Yeah, that's the point of it. I was just trying to get the mapping of the
I don't think you better see, you
Go.
have to like have the project downloaded to VS Code or see.
so you know what through okay.
I don't think you better see it.
And
I get it, I just have to go through it again, just to see why.
I don't remember because I know how. Of course, this would be an issue after I.
Maybe they have it close. But it might need to finish the code.
Let me. See. Let me go ahead and grab it. Okay. I'll find. Okay, so let me see. I gotta. Cancel that. We're not doing that right now. Uh, I got a new computer and I don't think I made my version. I don't think I uploaded my version to GitHub. Okay, so yeah, let me see.
This is what it was. We had to make it to this, but originally these were prompts. Then we had to complete all this to make it a problem. I mean, to make
The revenue chart and the latest invoice,
yeah,
they were props.
and they were prompts at first, and then this is what we suspended. I
Okay.
guess you can. I guess you don't have to have this as a prop anymore because of the suspense thing. Maybe it's probably fine.
Was it another function? Like you were passing it through a function that,
Once you make it that AC function, once you make it that, then I guess you don't need the prop anymore. I don't know. What's the AC function?
okay.
I did it.
I was,
I just didn't understand. Oh, but maybe you don't supposed to. Just. Because it all, but
yeah, no, I feel like I know what you're talking about. I have to, I'll find it and then, we'll go over it. So I'll try to find it during break. And then we'll go over that because I know what you're talking about. I remember what you're talking about. I just don't remember exactly what it was. And I didn't upload it to GitHub, unfortunately, because I didn't think I would. Okay, that's fine. Any other questions about the homework or anything in general? Okay.
when you seed something, are you given the seed or do you have to, like, we have to seed into that project in homework? So what is?
Oh,
seed?
seed-
Like feed the database information?
So seeding is like you're basically, if you think about it like in like a garden, like you're planting, you're just putting your like initial data in that database, in that table. So when you seed it, you're essentially just putting some initial data into it.
Can you get that initial data from the API, or are you making sure it's?
So it depends on, typically when you're seeding it, you're typically doing it like manually of some sort. And that's typical, but you can do it however you can uh make an API call and pass that data to it. But when you see seeding in regards to like a database, it's typically just that initial um posting of data to it.
You have to see, like, it's a thing from there, or that's fine.
It's just so typically you wanna test your table. So it's just like a way like you can get some initial information there to test your data. Like if you have a component that's pulling, like if you're working on like a dev project and you have a component that's like a process that's pulling that data, you want to make sure that your application is pulling that, for one, that you're getting the data, and two, that your application is displaying that data how you want to. So that way it's just like some start information, and your seeding could be, it could be one row, it could be 100 rows, however much you think is necessary to appropriately like initialize it, to test it, to see to make sure that you're getting the intended effects out of it essentially.
Seeding is also helpful for if, so this project I work on, like I'll go in, like get my data and everything and start just jacking the data up, right? And so then I want to start over, and just reseed, and get like fresh data.
Mhm.
But it's just for testing. When you go to production, if you're not gonna like throw a bunch of random people in production,
Yeah,
with brand data.
Also, this is Parker.
yeah. So yeah, it's just like when you're in development, and like Brian was saying, you don't want to, you're gonna have that test data because you're gonna have, your production is just gonna be like pure, production code, whatever, or data, whatever is intended to be in there.
That makes sense of what I asked.
In the beginning, like seeding will literally be like, Derek said, like you're just gonna add a couple rows to your database, like type it in, it won't programmatically do. But as you do bigger projects and stuff, you're gonna want a good data set to test on. So you'll probably use, with an API, you know, grab all that data and throw it in there, or maybe your company like has a CSV, it's just got 100 big records on it, so you just put that in there. And there's a bunch of different ways to see, we see it with Prisma, but you can just literally write a function. It's just gonna go, in your back end and just upload those records.
Mhm.
Or you can literally just upload those records to the database. It's not like some magical thing, it's just means get data in the database.
Yeah. Okay. So I know, one of the main things we're gonna talk about is deploying a project, with Vercel. They make it pretty straightforward. So we are just going to the project that we did last week where we did the post, the social media post, quote unquote. We're going to deploy that. So one way we can do that is we can do it through Vercel directly on their dashboard, which is going to be vercel.com/new. It's going to take you there. So one of the things, so one way that you can deploy, there's a bunch of different ways you can deploy an application. You can even, if you really want to go through the hassle, you can even host your own application on your own local server at your house. So there's a lot you can do, but the typical way is you're probably going to host it on somebody else's servers, right? Like you probably hear a lot about like AWS or Google Cloud, and they are companies that provide those hosting services so that you can host your application or whatever else you need to host on their servers. Vercel makes it real easy to deploy a next application. And something that you'll see that a lot of hosting providers, that's what they're called, hosting providers, will do is that they'll allow you the ability to update your application when your main branch is updated. So one of the things we can do is what we're gonna do is, or one I gotta do is add this project to my GitHub. So what we're gonna do is if you're not already, it's gonna have you connect your GitHub. Well, have you already created Vercel accounts?
I think
Okay.
it's something that we use myself, so I do see it like I have.
Oh yeah, because we did what do we do on there?
I'm trying to.
The databases,
Yeah,
the Neon, I think you had,
yeah.
it was the Neon.
It's not on Word, it's, 'cause
Yeah. So this is a more modern way. It depend on like how you're gonna deploy applications, gonna depend on your application. You can even deploy an application directly from GitHub, called GitHub Pages, but those are more for static static applications for like front end. Like if you have a server, if your application uses a server, it won't be able to deploy on GitHub Pages. But there's a bunch of different hosting providers that you can use that you can look into. And then also you have Vercel that you can use. And it's as simple as just pushing an update to your main branch of your repo, and it'll update it automatically. So I'll have you do it in our application. I'll have you do it. I know it's gonna be, you don't have to. So it's something called Next Build. And what that does is, well, let me bring up my. What do I do with it? Okay. Okay. I had to make a basic application just because the way that my repo is set up. Okay, so what happened is, like, if we go to our package.json and we look at our scripts, so we had our npm run dev, it's gonna run next dev, and then we got our npm run build, which what it does is gonna build out your application, and it's going to compile it and optimize it. So what that's doing is all that code that we generated throughout our application, all those packages, it's going to transform it into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. And then so it's going to, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess so all that complex code is gonna be simplified into a format that essentially that the client can read and present that to the client. So that way, what is it? Man, words are hard today. But so that way that's how most applications are read out, is just those basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files. So like what you learned at the beginning of the curriculum, it's just going to transform it into that. It's going to create its own version. It's going to be almost not human readable, because it's very complex and it looks very cluttery. So we'll go ahead and then this is also the part where you might have, your code might not give you any errors, but it's gonna go through and check if, see if you're gonna have anything that might not be, what's the word? Production safe, and it's gonna, so what you're looking for, and it's also good, even if you are planning on deploying to an app, a hosting provider that's going to build out the project for you. Next build is also, building your project locally is also really good because it's gonna save you time. Because you wanna make sure that your project can build out properly before you even attempt to update it that way. Or else you're just gonna be, because sometimes the build process can take a while when you're pushing it through the hosting provider. So it also saves you time that way. So let me see. So let's see what is generated.
Is that how, which space here would be like a root space?
So the root is gonna be the very top level. So you got your folder of your project, right? And then, like, let's say you were in the Explorer, you got your folder of your project and you click into your project, that's gonna be your root. Every file you see at the very top, look, when you first enter your project on that project folder, that's gonna be your root. Okay. I guess I should. Why does it do this to me every time? Huh. Let's see. I gotta update my node again. I shouldn't have to update it. I'm sorry, 1 second. Um, But in the meantime, any questions about that? I know it sounds a little convoluted at first, but one I would recommend kind of learning about what is happening when a project is being compiled and all this fun stuff, because all that advanced code that you have is being transformed into basic HTML, CSS, and then and also it even, whether you have a server component or a client component, also tends to determine how those files are going to be generated, because a client component is going to be generated differently from a server component, especially because client components, they're going to be a little bit, what's the word? They're going to use they're going to be a little bit bigger than using a server component. So as you go along, those are going to be some things you want to consider, is like when it comes to optimizing your application, is using client components and server components appropriately, knowing when to use them. So that's something that as you start doing stuff, you'll get more used to it, and you'll start seeing where the benefits of a client component versus server component. Okay.
But when you look at your app right now, it can tell which parts are for the client and which parts are for the server.
Like, you mean, like when I'm looking at a web, like the browser version?
Like I don't know. I like, but class for the client side, right?
like handling the password.
Yeah, stuff like that. So.
I see what you're saying.
When you do it, can you tell like, okay, which parts of them get
But-
sent to this, to the client and which parts of them?
Yeah, you will generally have an idea of how you're gonna do it. It also, like Brian mentioned last week, chances of you starting a project from scratch is gonna be pretty much low. You're probably gonna be working on existing projects, so one of the considerations is gonna be like the existing infrastructure that you're working with and how you're gonna have to implement into that. So especially well, if you are on a project where they originally used Page Router, but they want to move to App Router for whatever reason, I don't think anybody would do that, but that would also, determine how it's going to be based on the existing functionality, because some components or function you might not necessarily be able to refactor during that process, so you might have to work around it. Typically, you are you're gonna want to you're gonna have an ideal of what direction you're gonna go when you are building out that project, when you coming up with a plan for it, and then things change. So something might come up that might change, and you might have to make something that was going to be a client component a server component. The way the app router does it is it defaults to being a server component. That's why you have to use the use client if you want to do like the use state, because and that's what makes it bigger, because like the server components, they're not going to be sending any job. They're not going to be like, when it's compiled, they're not going to be including um a bunch of JavaScript in it, but like the client components, they're gonna have a bunch of JavaScript involved, and that's what makes it beefier than just a regular server component. So that's something that like you have to consider, and that's why when you use the use state, you have to use the use client. That's one of the reasons right there.
Remember, that's a next thing, right? So
Yes.
next is taking the stuff that we learned before, that's packaging it very nicely. No, but it's good. But yeah, using the use client, so you're gonna know, okay, this is a client side component, so I'm not gonna put my passwords and stuff in there. Now, if you were using just React with the Express backend like we did before, everything Express, that's your service. You know it's your service. We brought in React in front of us. Again, next matches that together so that way you have to specify, okay, I know this is a use client that I need to use, say, effect or whatever kind of React thing. And so in there, yeah, password is. And I mean, you're not gonna put passwords in. In a hack one. Yeah, so that's in next, that's how you know use client, that's gonna be React stuff. If you're doing a React Express thing, you're gonna know that's Java type stuff. So.
I got to fix my note again.
Oh,
I know. I thought it was done.
in case y'all didn't know, Next was created by Vercel. So deploying Next app, the easiest way to do it is Vercel because they own it. So and easiest to do that. Some other ways you can do with Netlify, a lot of my stuff's on Netlify. And it's very similar that you hook your GitHub up to it and then deploy your project, and then every time you update your GitHub, every time you push, it automatically updates. It can handle Next.js stuff, but again, might as well use Vercel to say,
Just the guy who made it.
yeah. And then like Eric said, GitHub pages is good if you have a static site, you just want to throw it there, show some friends, whatever. And you can actually use, domains and everything else to make it professional. But it's probably better to use a different.
Why is it like, why is, what's good at getting out? Because when you build a web page, people charge you for the server, right?
Yeah.
And then when we deploy it, yeah, what are they making out?
What is GitHub making?
Yeah, like, what would they make it? Like, oh yeah, you can deploy your
So,
code on our page for free.
so there's, tiers, right? So our, like, as a company, we have to pay.
Okay.
And so, like, so everything we do through GitHub costs, and all our apps and things we do, GitHub doesn't make any money off most of the, like, we're just doing our thing, they don't care about the little, 3 GB thing you're doing, and upgrade. So you did that, and I mean. So there's other Git providers, there's like GitLab and Bitbucket and stuff. And so I guess by keeping you on GitHub, potentially this just makes some future.
Okay.
Always checking through your other questions about. The whole. Any holes that need to be filled in? And whoever wants to build out those. They always get about 5,000. We got no questions.
Oh, we do have
Yeah,
questions.
there's just so much processing.
Yeah.
So this process, like Derek is giving you the down and dirty, like real, like, what's going on. It's awesome to know and I like showing it, but in the end, like, you're just gonna click a couple buttons.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about all of that. That's like a DevOps role, you probably heard of DevOps.
Yeah.
There are developers. I guess you don't know. But there are people, that is their entire thing, right? Get a developer, take your code, put it on Vercel, on Google Cloud, whatever, like, that's their whole thing, right? Making sure it's there, making sure your package is rotated, or, making sure it's up and running, like, all that kind of stuff. You might, I think in the past, maybe it's called like a server dev or something.
So,
similar
yeah.
like that. But it's connecting those pieces, right? So as just a, not just a, that's not a name. As a dev, so typically you don't have to worry about that too much, depending on how many companies. Now, our company is only us, 3 people, so I'm Google Cloud certified, I do all that stuff too. That's what I just covered, but.
Mhm.
that part of me. But if you're a bigger company, yeah, I mean, you're gonna write your, like, little feature, you're gonna send it up, somebody's gonna, QA it, do all those things, send it back to the mayor. And then DevOps people take it over, actually deploy it, put it on GitHub or put it up wherever, everyone has to. Do all that stuff.
Yep.
Definitely good to know. But.
Yeah.
I might be mixing things up here, but when we're creating a page. So let's say in your code, if you just you have a file, you have the page, and then you have, I noticed like there's a button, you have the, maybe like for this app, you have the page.js, and then you have the page.js, and each file has just one function for that page. You can have 2. Is that right?
So a component function.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll have, I mean, you can have your components broken down. So like if you have the general page, like, then within the page, you have a button, you have a header, you have whatever, like all of those are gonna be their own files. They're gonna be their own components, and you're gonna bring those into your page. Right, so yeah, you can have multiple, I think the page that, you're talking about who we have next.
Yeah.
The page that is what is gonna bring, right, when you have slash, like Taco Bell or whatever. If it's Taco Bell folder and you got page.jsx in there, that's what it's gonna grab. The other ones in there are gonna be components that you're gonna bring into your page.
So you can, like I mentioned a couple times, there's no like set in stone, right? Or wrong way to do some things, right? So like, if you just wanted to, you could have all your component, you can do your route, and then like I say, you had route your post, right? And you could just have all your post items in the post, right? So you could do your like your constants, your actions, your just general components, like even the buttons, right? And if you want to do it that way, it would be a little tedious, but you could do it that way, right? Um, and that might be a good way to do it depending on how like small or large your project is. So you can do that. It's just that, one of those things that if you should, right? But there are times where doing something like that makes sense. Cause like if you were gonna do the post and you just wanted to have like, and that you're just gonna have a component and you're just gonna use that component only for the post, then that's something you could do. That way it makes it easier to find that specific component for that button or whatever you're gonna be using. Once your product, gets
You
larger.
know, like, I get it. That's most of the thing that I've been doing, like, it's just trying to understand the homework is, there's a point where they were like, okay, they make you create a new, like a new folder, and then only the things inside that folder get rendered. I don't know.
Only the things in that folder.
Yeah, like, or maybe it's like, build this first before you build the other thing, but there was like a hierarchy. Maybe I'll look it up and then maybe you'll think.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you can do that.
I feel like we have like, let's say you got like, folder 1, 2, 3, and these are your pages. And then they're like, now if you want just this one thing to show up first, you gotta move some of that stuff to like a new file structure and then.
Oh, so I think what you're saying is, it was probably, you probably had like a number of components inside of a component.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to render one of these other components
Yeah.
separately,
You got like move something like.
you probably have to, maybe like, you probably remove it from that component and then
Yeah.
export it or import it into wherever. I mean, that's what it sounds like, but I'm not entirely sure.
So I was wondering, okay. If you have a page and you wanted to do stuff, is there a way of just within the page to block the code off that's supposed to do that stuff instead of? Or maybe it just, I don't know.
You can conditionally render stuff.
Mhm.
So, the ternary operators that we use, so like if this is true, question mark, do this thing, you can do that in JSX. So you would just have, get a term, so like, for the is loading state, right? If you can hand code the suspense basically, and so you could have a state variable that is loading, set is loading. And then in the JSX, you would say is loading, so if it's true, question mark, and then just show a loading screen, right? And your colon, and then the rest is your actual change. So you would say, okay, this loading, we're just showing them, the skeleton or whatever, again. Once it's done loading, then we'll reload them.
Yep.
So one thing I would caution with, so deep dry, right? Don't repeat yourself with something that preach. Forget that in the beginning, right? In the beginning, get your stuff on the page, get it working, have it, 9,000 line, file, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then go back once it's working, it's on the page, everything's good. Then go back and refactor it and say, okay, I noticed I'm using this same function 20 times, or I made this function 20 times. Okay, I'm gonna take this out in my utils folder, and then I can just export that in wherever I need. And then things like that, right? So yeah, don't worry too much about it, especially this homework, like it went pretty deep, right?
Yeah,
So don't worry about grasping all of that just yet.
yeah.
We're just, you need to know, I mean, it's good to know eventually, it's definitely good you're getting exposed to it. But currently, we just want to get stuff on the page, get it deployed, so that's good.
Yep. And then, yeah, that goes back to, what I said at the beginning, like, you don't expect to remember everything, and all that stuff. And as you're going through it, it's just there to orient you with the process, right? So like if you come across the problem, you like, oh, okay, I know there's a solution for this, or you know where to go to look up a possible solution. because Next.js does good handling a lot of things. It's a good framework, but there may be something that you might have to look up, and just you can look up in the Next.js docs, and if you can't see a viable solution there, then you can use because you still got React. So Next.js is built on top of React. So you can look up the Next.js documentation, but you can also look up React, right? And then whatever, like even if it's like might be just a vanilla JavaScript problem, right? That you're having, that's something you can look up. So you just want to get used to knowing where to go to find these answers, right? Because you might, if you're using a framework, like I said, you might want to start with see if they have something native that you can use. If not, then whatever it's built up on top of, then you can use that like React. And then if you don't see anything React, you can see if just vanilla JavaScript has something that you can use to come up with like a creative solution to solve your problem, right? Because that's going to be a lot of it. Like if you can't find a lot of it is you don't have to re-solve problems that's already been solved. But if you got a specific problem for you, then coming up with a creative solution, right? And then that's how a lot of these things are being built, right? Frameworks are built because a lot of people had problems, like with React. A lot of people had problems. Next.js was built because a lot of people had problems building with React and then deploying that code. Because you had great code, but you've seen all the things we had to do to just be able to deploy that code. We had to use React Router. We had to get our own router just to navigate our pages. So that was a problem that Next.js solves, and that's what a lot of applications are being built based off of, is what problem can I solve? Well, hopefully that answers your question.
If it doesn't, go, that's well.
Any other questions? Or anything in general? Okay.
You know, that first one, we made those models, what are those again?
The models?
Yeah.
So the model is basically you can consider like an outline of the database table that it's referencing. So if you have like if you have a post table in the database, because you got your database and then the database is made of tables. If you have your post table, then it's just going to tell you the outline of what columns are in that table, right? So if you got your post, you're going to have your post ID, your content, your post title, or all that stuff, and it's just outlining that what's included in that essentially. Does that make sense? All right, and then so I'm gonna go ahead and run this build. Let's see if it worked. So it's creating an optimized production build. All right. So it's gonna take all your static content, anything that's gonna generate, static content. It's going to render that as HTML, CSS. Um, and then as you can see, the steps it went through. So compiling, so linting and checking validity of types. So what the linting is just checking to see if there are any errors that need to be addressed before it can be deployed. So that's what it's doing. And then so it's generating static pages. So it generated 5 static pages. Um, And then, let's see, where did it go? Right here. So similar to when we run, next, um, npm run dev, it creates a .next file or folder. So it's gonna have, it has the cache folder, which is gonna be the part of like what was it? The build traces that you seen. So it's like keeping a cache, and then I don't know what I forget what SWC stands for, but it's it's a compiler that's more efficient. So where is it? So what am I looking for? There we go. So it also creates a separate server folder, and it got its own app. So it's gonna have its own index.html. Can everybody see? Okay. Okay. And then you got your static. I don't know why it's doing that.
So like, you see how you see server reference stuff? I would think, okay, that's server stuff. That's not like, that's what I think.
Yeah, so this is just like,
But I think that's not class. That's service.
yeah, this is under the server folder. Yeah. So and then
And I think in my head, I'm like, oh, anything under the app, that's like client side. So don't put stuff you don't want. Well, anyway.
yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, so you won't be manually changing anything in the .next folder. It's just something that's automatically generated. So and then this is what you're gonna be um loading up to the server, because it's gonna connect. Like if you have a component and it's referencing another component and it got those props, it's gonna create the JavaScript to handle all that, and that's what it's doing. Um, so that when it's uploaded or deployed, then your it's gonna know, your system's gonna know how to interact with itself, and that's all it's doing, is just breaking it down into more complex code. So like this is the framework. So this is like the JavaScript that references, gonna have all like the hooks. So you see like here you can see like the React. What is it? Well, I don't think y'all did too much of the React memo, but like React memo, which is a um another hook that uh React has. So you see that it just has a bunch of, for the most part, not easily readable code, right? Um, and it just puts it in this long, yeah. But so a cool thing is, like if you import a package, you might import a package and you might need to look it over to understand it more. So a cool thing you can do is like, I don't remember what formatter, if y'all use, was it Prettier?
Oh,
Yeah, so you can use Prettier, so your format, let me see. Nope, I don't know. Hold up, I always forget it. Well, on book. Uh, Hold up. I always forget the command on Windows. So if you were to use your shift option. So it makes it more readable. So like if you had something that you need to go through and at least attempt to understand it, because you might come across a project or a package that might be really good, but it doesn't have like the best documentation. And when I say really good, I mean in terms of like its application for your project. So you can you at least get a general idea, but the function XI with the, parameters ET and N, like you're not gonna be able to just right off the bat know what any of this means. So, um, but this is an example of what's being done in the background. You don't need to know exactly what's happening, until you get to a level, if you're gonna be, you know, doing your own framework or something or compiler. So, and then it got the CSS. So just like a normal CSS file. Yeah. Yep. So all your tailwind is gonna be transformed into this. And then it gives like any assets that you have, like if you got any pictures that are local or any other thing that's local, it's gonna save it under this medium. So you can see there's a lot that's being done when it's being built out. So then oh, no, even though it's a bunch of objects. Okay. Oh, I hit the wrong one again. Okay, yeah, it's not gonna work. But this is all right. Any questions about that? I mean, you don't have to understand how it works right now. Just a basic understanding of what's happening that is building out that this folder. And then also like if you have like build problems or anything like that, a good idea is like any folder that's automatically generated, it's probably gonna have some form of caching system. So if you're having issues with it and you get an error and you fix it, but you're still having issues, good practice is you can just delete whatever is auto generated and then redo it so that way any artifact that's left over can be deleted with it. So like if it's creating any issues, because that can be a problem sometimes. And some of y'all might notice because there were a couple times, I think just last week where we had to delete our node modules, uh, and stuff like that. So that's pretty typical, and that's a standard troubleshooting step. So when you build out your project, your next step to make sure that everything is working correctly, because we've been working in a dev environment. So now you want to see what it's going to be like when it thinks it's on a production environment. So okay, I don't know what it is. So what we're gonna do is do run start. So similar to um the run dev, but this is gonna run it as if it's like in a production environment, right? For the most part. So that way you can have like if anything is working on dev, but for whatever reason it breaks on in production, then this can also be used as a troubleshooting for troubleshooting to kind of get to the bottom of that as well. And because as you know, like I think we had an instance last week where we were checking to see if we were in a development environment versus a production environment, because you might have some conditions that run based on whether you're in an dev environment versus a production environment. So you'll probably will hear or see the word like development, like in regards to like your project. Um, so there, you just want to be aware of when somebody's talking about like in development, that means like when you are working. So there are technically three. So you might have your local, which is you'll see somebody say like your local dev environment, that's gonna be referencing like the work you're doing on your machine, your computer. Then you might have like a dev environment where you might have branched off from the main in your GitHub, and then you're working on that. So you have a development build that's used so that way your development build is used so that you are what's the word? You can, like if you're updating features on a website, but you want to push them all at the same time and not like feature by feature, or if you're just doing like a rework, right? You would have your dev environment, so that way you can see how it works. And it's gonna be like a production environment. It's gonna be something that might be live that you can work on to see what to expect once you push it into production, push it live and deploy it. So you might have that dev environment. And then once you get to that point where, everything's working in good order in there, then you will push that to your production. So if you hear like local development and production, that's what they're differentiating between. But you might hear like dev environment interchangeably for like your local, um, like for your local work that you're doing, and then for your your dev environment that you have live. So it also depends on context as well. But just so you hear that, you know what they're talking about. So this is our start version. So once you get a good build and you run your start and everything is working as expected, then that's when you would go in and actually push your code to go live. So I need to let's see. So I'm gonna add this to my GitHub.
So the having different version stuff, it's good, it's a very good idea. Especially, well, not especially, but also if you're working just by yourself. And I'm really good to this, like superheroes just on my main branch right now, that's for sure. But if I were to screw something up, it's on the main branch, okay? So like when you start a project, you make as many branches as you want. So, initially you have a main, so it's a good idea to go ahead and make yourself a dev branch. And then from there, you can then make branches for different features or whatever, put it on dev, make sure everything looks good, then merge it into main. And that's what you'll do professionally, but it's also a great thing to do on your own. Yes, it's. But it's a good thing to do.
Okay. So now, this part you can follow along with. So like I said, we're gonna go to vercel.com/new. You should already have a Vercel account. And then you're gonna want to make sure it should, if you're not already connected with your GitHub, it should prompt you to be able to connect it.
So on Versal, would you say like add new project?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, so let me step back first, actually. I'm getting ahead of myself. So we want to go ahead and Has everybody built out their project already? The NPM run build? So we want to make sure we don't got any errors in our build before we attempt to deploy it. The command.
I'll send it for them. Did it?
That'll be in
Oh,
I know the hosts, so we kinda got sidetracked with the whole database thing. Does
Oh.
everyone have a working host?
Oh, yeah, because I forgot the Windows issue.
Yeah.
you should.
So since we're just doing deploy, just whatever, if you're okay with this.
Yeah, yeah.
Just whatever project you have that actually works right now, just do that.
Yeah.
If it's the next project.
So we say,
That's something you just slide, you switch to Neon and that's a working project, you have to install a script or stuff, I'll let you push it up.
Okay, thank you for that.
At least it did.
So everyone just pull up a working next project right now, then. Steps.
that's my mom home. Are you on the doubles?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The whole project, that's the main thing with all of those, and all of them have to do. So if I run into that issue, yeah, of course, right.
Those know we all get it, project.
So in my root folder, the first I say, NPM run, right?
No, so run is gonna, that's your telling it to look in the script, you know, back in JSON, and then you have to tell it which script is run. So very back JSON. When you npm run, it's like, oh, okay, I'll look here, they get to which one. Okay.
For the time you just remove. So and just the build,
Just a wording.
but then we'll see that.
Yeah.
And do npm run dev. and-
Stop me, but the, oh. But the.
Yep. So that's the problem, so if you go to this,
But do it, Alex. Here, I thought you mentioned scripts. You're not the right folder. You're not in,
the server actually.
yeah, you can get it in the right guy. Right now, you're.
Oh.
so there's. So this, first, so you yeah.
Now you're. So saying, that's just, now you're doing.
So
Yeah.
There's a.
And I have that, it wasn't working, so.
The boy from a few weeks ago now.
Oh,
is,
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Build errors because of the app.
Alright, well, it's not where we come, so you have another project with next board.
Very much, right?
Yeah.
What's your last bit?
I'm trying to.
Okay.
Sorry, okay.
Oh, well.
Think you're getting bills?
Let me, here, let's fix it.
This half of this stuff so that you would.
That's fine, let's put it on.
We'll get it.
One second.
Like chip, just do.
Getting a, line break here.
But it's not, you should see it go folder created.
When this is the different, like, are you right there?
So the building rules, actually.
Those of you- Carry over this to me.
It's as long as it works, I can.
And my board.
It should, if you want to get some state, you can change and try.
Right, but it's.
Before,
Okay, so it's.
okay, it's built by itself, that's fine.
So we can get that.
Let's see.
Device I did raise some stuff, so. Okay. I wrote that. Yeah, and yeah, it's supposed to be showing some stuff.
Yeah, that's okay, just, try to go and see. If it clears, that doesn't work.
Oh.
I have two options, I could do that one.
So. Oh.
Everyone. Hey, alright, now you're, get your things based on. So now we're getting you built, right?
Or,
Okay, so NPM on build.
That one?
Just-
um,
That's gonna take a while, and the build full from show.
Oh, Charlie, you're more little.
No, that's just you're not found file. The 404 you're scanning, that's what that is.
From the,
There's no errors from. So go here sometimes.
Yeah, it's been finding some errors that we got in the.
That's a.
Additional bill.
What about this,
No, go down. It might not make a build folder, I might have misspoke. Does it, when you do, does it not make a build folder?
Oh, what?
A build folder?
Uh,
You do a build?
this does dot next.
Oh, not that, oh, so that's what's on top of it.
Or, okay, actually,
I mean, it says it did nothing. I'm used to seeing build folder.
Yeah, like a,
I'm good, that doesn't, so I stopped.
So, yeah.
which, let me double check, cause if he,
That's
I'll get everything when,
yeah, which is weird, cause
okay, it's also with the shields that front side.
Okay, so it will not be about build folder, don't worry about that. You're good, as long as it is error in.
start by software service.
So it's engineer is running that, correct? Yes, yes, and then if you want to test the JSON, that's how you know what time chain. Should run control. When you say in game, now it's like those. Okay, so you say it's good. It was saying.
No, it should, so that's, yeah, you usually get that.
Do it.
And I forgot it.
You can actually can hear.
And then ask about that. Yeah, one other thing. Oh, are you doing NPM?
Oh, is it NPM?
Yeah, it's NPM.
What's the error, the exact error?
Yes.
Validation error count. 14. Well, folks, hey, folks, that's the deal.
Why is it, why is it doing this?
So it says post page.
The looks, the duration first.
Go here.
The document said, here's first, build this and
Go to your post.
and then on build, it said this part. Both can be.
Post page.
Oh, yeah, so that's supposed to be. But.
Do we have any cost?
It will be next.
It'll tell you.
That's what it was.
Well, sure, Google talk about it.
Let me see your,
So,
yeah, next bill.
let's see.
Space in between. Not like.
They probably.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny, like, when they put in like the brackets and like something in between, you're like, is that code? That's what you're writing, or you're like, what's up there?
I had to try to know first question. Okay.
Well, that, it was our recommendation motion.
No, it's your. I'll take it, my question.
No, I did have that here.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well-
it's built.
Right here. Should I take it out?
Yeah, no, you can decide.
Also, I added manually the key. So my recommendation.
Yeah, so that's pretty normal that you got. If you
I
had,
can't even go one thing to build.
Let's just make it a brand new thing, like, alright. Yeah, just. Let's do it, then just a brand new. Or is it what you get on for?
Read it one more time.
No, here, I got this. Yeah, it's good, it's deep on there. Pretty cool.
Hey, what's up?
What is I going to do? Just not in one time.
You do it. PX create things.
You can just
Yeah.
change something to something. Remember.
Let's change something, let's put, well, there's,
Oh, if you commit to
there's,
What was it?
was just,
If that's three jobs.
Oh,
That's really finding existing.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right, no, that was right, I didn't see the picture, I don't know why I couldn't see, okay, yeah, I will look.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was so easy. Okay, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But I figured you're supposed to do all of them, like, it's just next.
Delete that.
I did the first one that you did, then I took it out, and then did the second option of doing it here.
So. We're trying to say, see what he's saying?
Then, yeah.
Or what's the way you?
Yes, there now it's fine, so it's in my
First one works.
Oh, sorry, go back. Oh, yeah. Close. Oh, that's cool. Oh, good. Like, okay. Totally, yeah, it's open up, it works.
It's when,
You're old. Feel that guy. Everyone knows the run build is nice. You know that comes from the practice on scripts. When you run, then one of these, you got. Oh, yeah.
So. I find it connect to the first one.
Alright, so it's like, no, so, when you do build that. Oh, you just literally run next build, that's the right word, yeah. Ooh,
So I have a red side, that's what I appreciate you.
Where's, good go, next.
Still, I should.
Y'all got work locally?
Yeah, get built there, I'm pretty sure, so we might.
Did you do the thing in Windows script? Did everyone else do?
Yeah,
Did your practice days on?
the post estimation, post estimation.
So on the build, take across the name, what's Siobhan? This guy, I don't know if it, try to figure out where it is.
Yeah.
He had a different script in his build.
Lisbon.
What I said?
Lisbon.
Lesbon?
Yeah, Lisbon.
Lesbon, okay. So we need to try to see both, split it.
Okay.
What did you have? Did you have the same thing?
I had the same one posted installed, but on mine, I had actually removed all calls to the person. I was working on stuff.
Okay.
So I want your experience, I've never actually tried to use it, that's what it is.
And you have. We'll continue. Okay, yeah, well, I'm sure that's probably. Good.
It wasn't the principal generator, was it?
It might have been, it was something and then next. So, wait a minute. Yeah, did you already try that?
I can do that one for the person.
Okay, yeah, try that. So in that build script,
So, yeah,
just right before next build. It's on set.
here, right here,
No, it's yeah, so right before next build.
yeah, so the same thing you had in the,
and
And
then
did we,
what I took out from,
yeah,
did we do, was it, Prisma Generate and next build?
Yes, let me double check. Yeah, so you have to add post install, Prisma generate, and then in build, but Brisbane Generate and Jacksonville. Or that was.
So, yeah, you would put in. The vertical jumper, everything.
So,
Inside the quotes,
what did I do?
Brisbane Generate,
Altogether,
So the base, yeah.
then double A's.
double,
Little and simple,
okay, double,
put spaces in between. No, it's not the one, I'm sorry, it's good words.
what here?
Yeah, mercy. Okay. I don't. All right, yeah, try to do it again, run. You know, frustrating all to be. Hopefully, solved. You know, it's not very grand.
Okay, on Southfield,
NPM run. So NPM run takes you to that scripts. Here, that's what it's up for.
Jack Marks, that's some good.
Okay. Good. Okay. Here. No. Cool. All right, yeah, everybody should be, I think everyone built, or just everyone's built. Cool. Hey, just as a side note, I wrote on the board here, Aaron, you were asking about the model, the table thing. But this is what it is. So this is your database, right? So you're gonna have your columns, ID, title, blah, which are these guys. Right, then you'll have your date, your actual data in each row. So post table, post model, columns, columns. That's it. That's the connection. Whenever you're actually creating your table, you'll do okay on ID column, and then it'll ask you like what type you want it to be, so be string or whatever, and then you can just add extra things to it. But that's the gist, that's a connection. It's just table, model, ID, well, why didn't they just call this table? It's make confusing. But that's.
The environment variable, you said,
yeah. My added that one,
I guess it doesn't work.
so I delete it and
Okay.
it's supposed to do it by itself, right?
Um. Yes.
You connect your database URL to your Neon.
I don't, normally you have to. Go back to your, environment variable.
In here, yeah. Here it is.
You say even, so you said.
Oh, that was just a
Windows
error.
All keys
last
on.
week.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
If you did, you're probably
Make it,
good.
yeah, upgrade.
I do remember struggling the database, just like the.
Very much. Yeah, it's just the name, so.
So the name of your environment variable should be a capitalized data piece for,
This right here.
and then get rid of that
Yeah.
down there at value, sign, and the close. What that do?
Got I track something. Okay. So, okay.
Okay.
Think of what else we're waiting for you to go next time. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So we got the build. And then any other questions about that so far? We good? Okay. So we got the build and then if we're on the vercel.com/new, the the initial build screen, it should order it by the most recent, but you can just find the project you're looking for. It has a search bar as well, and then you just hit import. And then you configure your project. And it's asking for the root directory of your project. Typically, for the most part, it's just gonna be the default, unless you have what's called like a mono repo, which is you got multiple projects in one repo. You shouldn't, hopefully you shouldn't see that anytime soon. Those can be kind of crazy. And then we'll just leave those to the default. And then everybody was able to build out their application, correct? The NPM run build, okay. Okay, and then for the environment variables, so if you go to your environment variables in your project, you copy the name, make sure like the database URL, I think it was, make sure it's all capital. So that way it'll connect to your database. But then
versa.com/u.
yes.
I see, I'm trying to make sure I'm not getting mixed up. So I think we had an early project. It's kind of moving better. But let's go. So should I do?
Where's that address gonna be permissions?
So should I not do that?
Which account is it right here?
So it shows me here.
So no, the GitHub, cause that's your GitHub, right?
Yeah, this is my gift.
That's the one you use for the project. So yeah, you just have to adjust your GitHub permission. You already got your GitHub.
So
No, under it, where it says that last project. Under that last.
okay. That's what.
And then, where we got found the environment variable, it's supposed to be all caps.
Yes, so so you wanna make sure it matches, cause that's what your project is looking for.
And was it A and B, that A and B?
Yes, it's that one.
So this one's.
No, the one that you're,
So you
that file, that's yours.
I draw this up there.
Yeah, that's that one. That's the database URL. Here, copy that name.
So. I'll get my thing.
Yeah. And then you're gonna copy the value without the parentheses. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you don't got the parentheses in it.
Well.
That is my issue.
See.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But this is like something else. So. I think that's something. But I do.
So, seems to go back to the other one that has already supposed to. Yeah, go back.
So you just copy the database, the name, which is database URL. All that.
So this is not what we think, right now.
And you're gonna put it where it says name or key. Yeah. That's the key.
Well, I guess the value is.
What's that value?
I guess that was what I probably already have.
Oh.
Yeah, correct, but I was talking, that's what. So I don't.
So that.
So,
Double click it,
or
or the actual word.
yeah, cause you already had it.
Yeah. It's the double click.
That's why I was like.
You just,
Normally,
when you deploy the first time, you just had it built, which is fine.
So you just have,
You don't have to, because it's gonna run the build anyway, you just did it locally, so you could check the, because that's kind of the point of this, is like, if we run the build locally, the whole thing is wheel there. If you just run it straight here, if there's any errors, it's gonna error out, you give it the build log, and then it shows, oh, okay, this error.
Yeah, right.
So in here, remember we just saw.
Oh,
this thing go
that's
that
what
way?
I looked at, yes, yeah.
So it did the same thing
Okay.
here,
Okay.
and so it would say it was an error. Okay, so again, the reason we do it locally is we handle that, okay, before we
Before
ever.
we send it out. Got it, thank you.
okay.
You're doing like that's project, you probably don't have any, so this. Yeah.
Alright. And then you just go ahead, hit deploy. And, one thing though, it automatically is gonna detect, your frame, like the Next.js. So it'll automatically detect it for you. If you were using something else, it has other presets. I don't know if I'll be able to click it while I'm deploying, nope. But, you know, it has other frameworks that you can use and it'll configure it for you. But on the bottom here for deployment, similar to, so it does the build for you. When we did the npm run build, it does its own npm run build. And and it just runs through that same thing. And then it's gonna take those files, put it on the server. And essentially it's gonna give it a IP address so that when someone attempts to connect to that IP address, it's gonna route it to this website, to that specific location on the server.
One thing to note about environment variables, so you have a .env file in your project, right? And we're ignoring that. We don't want that available, right? So literally, when you're adding environment variables, you're just taking them from that file and just putting them in one by one, or you know what I mean? But so that's, like Derek said earlier, that database, capital database underscore URL, we put that in our code, remember? And that's how it knows, okay, I'm gonna go get my database or whatever. So that, you just stick in that in its little interface, put it in there with every environment variable we have, like, which can be great. Like our project is like. So, and with GCP, you can't import, so you have to one by one, stupid, wow. A lot of them have an import option.
So Vercel can go and find it by itself or it doesn't?
No. So you
You
have,
have to do it manually.
yes.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna go through your code, it's gonna go, oh, okay, you wanna use database URL, let me go look at my environment variables that have been put in and find that. Which is what your code does with whether you have .env file. So that's just a deployed, way to do it.
I remember you helping me out with a .env where there was something, like I think the URL is not supposed to go to the client side, right? Or is it, yeah, I can't remember. There's something that's not supposed to be exposed, and so you hide it on the .env.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, any keys, credentials, like anything you need, yeah, you can put it in .env. And then that's how it finds it again, is you put it here, and then you go, okay, let's go ahead and go find it,
Mhm.
so it's not exposed.
Yep.
I didn't get any errors and I did run build. VS Code, but then I want to try to deploy it on Rust, so it's getting. What is it? You already did.
Build the collect integration, post, original, that's go over. There's no control to. Oh, so once, okay, so it's long then, so, yeah, do kind of like the windows, so you go to your, application. That's in here.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, very, very well. Then in the bill script, just before next bill. Or, yeah, put first to generate. Before the quotes, no, it's like what's the bill.
Oh, good.
And then, do double ampersand, just. All right, so you're gonna, build.
I'll say it first.
It should.
Any questions about this process? Pretty straightforward. So,
Think that's all.
so now your project is live and it has a URL. And it's not pretty, but it's usually gonna be like your project name and then some random string and then username. And it's gonna be like projects.vercel.app. But, well, that's the deployment. Okay, cool. I was looking at the wrong thing. That's good. So it's gonna be this, in this instance, is the to deploy dash. I think that's the P, my screen's crazy. Yeah, P I.vercel.app. So if you click that, it already knows. It's gonna take you to that. And so like if you were to type it on your like that same, if you would type your same address onto your phone, it would also take you to that application. So now that's live, and then that's how it gets in front of the world.
But, so if I were to search for yours, would I see it on my phone or is it just on your local?
No, this is live.
This is live, even like,
Oh, yeah.
anybody?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So when you deploy, you're deploying it to be live. So this is the domain name that Vercel gave it. So like when you deploy your app, like if you go, so you see, it says on your project dashboard where it says domain. Right here. That's where your project is being hosted at. So that's where you can find it. So like if you were to type it in your phone, it would pull it up. Although we weren't using.
Word for real. And then send it to our.
Yeah, I had some errors that, so that's, yeah. Where?
And speaking of looking at it on your phone, I'm not sure if I mentioned this when we went over Tailwind, but the way Tailwind is designed, we were creating applications for our computer, right, for the web browser on our computer. Tailwind is designed to be a mobile first design system. So what that means is you want to design when you're building your application out initially, you want to design for it mobily because then it's easier to build out and to scale it up to a larger size, but also because Tailwind's code, or not code, but like the way it's designed is like all like um, the basic decorations for each of them, for each styling is supposed to be when you just have it, just the bare styling, it's supposed to be like you think is in mobile format. So then that way, if you want it to go larger, then you're adding the configurations so for it to get larger. So essentially, you would want to make sure like your very basic code looks good on a mobile device, and then when you are querying it out, like so, and CSS is like the media queries. When you're using Tailwind's media queries, you want to make your adjustments as it gets larger. So it makes because it's easier to go from a mobile phone to a desktop than it is the vice versa. Right. Were you able to get our?
I guess I needed the HTTPS on, if I'm doing on the phone. Right? Maybe. I think, yeah, I think I needed the HTTPS. That's interesting.
Yep. It is super cool. Then once you get into like a little bit more advanced deployments, you'll have to worry about like certificates and all that fun stuff. But typically, Vercel handles that thing for you. And your security to make sure that your site is secure. But sometimes you might have a use case that goes beyond a Vercel's capabilities. But for most part, Vercel would cover most like what you would need for most applications. And then
So now. This update, how do you go into like,
you should just
you do, so from here, and
the dash
to
/dash.
yes, okay.
So if they're running their Prisma locally, are they gonna, it's in an error because they can't get the posts from Versal?
Oh,
I'm wondering,
there's.
maybe you just, you know.
Yeah, or you can, another way is it hold up, let's see. So there's, let me see. I think it might be. I think if you do the APIs on the server or on your project.
You said you weren't able to get it on.
I think I needed to do the HTTPS.
Yeah. I think if you like
Yeah,
open it,
run,
around
or not, I think it's pretty much.
like from the
It
limit.
is.
You go here, let's click on. Like double click this, here's like a little value, now guys here.
I want
That's tested it.
Yeah, space dash,
Yeah, but.
yeah, it's a space dash.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have-
You'll get two of them. The DB might, you know. I always get those. Yeah, so you can, so it still have to go through the audit, just creates it on first list. I'm gonna make it essentially. Sure, yeah, sure. This. Why you not working it? Do it on the line. Yeah, so it just like. Then it should update your, EMP file on time. That's what I was forgetting last week. On this page, that.
So now that you're in fun. Grab that, or else this needs to change. Take that to Bristol. Maybe, amazing, but controls them.
I think it's option.
Close the option, try. Okay, that'll work better. Yes, well.
Alright. Any general questions about employment or anything in that? Yes.
Yeah, the question is about, I guess, how it works in companies, so. You typically then would have a different repo, or develop the production, and only your production repo is linked to this.
So you will probably have like a development branch.
And,
Yeah, so like you probably have like a development branch and so forth, and then you would merge it into but it depends, because that's something that can also differ, because some, for whatever reason, they might have a separate repo for it, right? But typically you would probably see it as like the production branch, then they have like a little separate branch for it, that's the development. And then, or they might. Like, you know, the separate repo, they would even also, like, pretty close version of it that way. But yeah, typically you just see the branch with it. But at least in my experience.
This really just depends on where everyone does it differently.
Yeah.
So it was easy to go with. There will be, there's plenty of places around here that this works, still as production, they don't have development together. Then there's the complete opposite where like they were talking about the DevOps earlier, where you will even. You deploy it to a certain place in time and then like a DevOps team will grab it and put it in production. Things like that, so it really depends, size of the company, who you're working for, just how much they value the software development team. Cause you'd be surprised how many places that, you know, that are big around here or anywhere that don't take it serious. So,
What if, let's say we're a team, we're working on that thing. So who deploys their code first, right? You deploy it?
So this is where
What
things
we're working on?
get really funny, so say we just all decided together to just build a project together. We would all have our separate branches building it, and then would obviously, as you're building it, you merge into your master branch, your main branch, whatever you want to call it. It really kind of just depends. But typically having like a team or an individual that's dedicated to like deploying that kind of stuff, like one person whose main focus that is the smartest way to go about it. Because one thing y'all will run into as you like start to deploy stuff is kind of like this really funny joke is all the time to where it's like, oh well, it doesn't work on my machine. You build this whole app, you get it ready, and like on your machine, you can see everything functions as expected, it loads, it does it all. But then you share it with someone else and it's like, I'm just getting errors, like it's not even loading. Pretty common thing, so that's where like other things come into factor. We start to talk about Docker, how that plays a factor of things. So
Who fixes the errors from trying to deploy, the person deploying, or does he just kick it back?
again, this is where things get really, it just depends.
That's a-
Like if you were to put me in charge and say, hey, what do you think, how should we approach this? I would say whoever deployed it
should be the one to try to fix the problem and take it from there. Alright, I deployed it. I did everything correctly on my end at the deployment process, however that may be. But I identified the air bugs in this area, like this seems to be the problem where it's coming from. I would look back and see, alright, who built this feature? Who built this part of it? And I would say, alright, since you're the most familiar with it, you wrote the code, you try to figure it out.
So,
And that's just my opinion, because I read into this a lot of work, like. If I were to take someone who didn't build that feature, who wrote that code, they go figure it out, they could, but it's gonna take them a long time, because. You're reading someone else's code, you're interpreting it, and you're trying to understand yourself. That's what this. Like I call like heavy cognitive load. It's a lot to think through, it's a lot to go through, and if. You know, say it's a website that you wanted to launch live for someone, and it was supposed to go live like 2 days ago, and we're still running into problems. If I give it back to the person who built that feature, they can identify it quicker than some random person who didn't touch it. That other person could probably solve it, person who built it could probably solve it faster. And again, that's just my opinion. But you'll see other teams work differently, to where it's like, no, we want everyone to be able to do everything in terms of our development team. That makes the most sense, 100% behind that, that makes sense to me. But in certain scenarios, like, you gotta be able to fix things on the fly. And typically, that's like the hardest part is when things do go wrong is, do you want a quick fix? Or do you want the right fix? Most often in times people will go with a quick fix, and that's fine. Cause you gotta get things off the ground depending on the stakes of it. But the smarter way to do it is to go with the sure fix. Like, let's take our time with it to make sure that we didn't break anything else in the process and try to fix this one problem area. And I know, I don't but it's just like, it's, in terms of like handling deployment. If you're working with a large group, probably dedicate one person to it. But what all of you are gonna run into is, as you're, you know, if you wanna be a web dev, if that's what you're gonna get into. You're gonna be building on projects by yourself. So you have to learn to do all of those to build it, deploy it, and when you get a job, hopefully that won't be the case, hopefully you just focus on one area, but you will all experience that soon if you choose to like move forward with this and try to break it in.
And after deployment, you have people like testing on Windows.
It just, so I.
Linux and then different.
Again, it just depends on where you're at, but if you're by yourself, I say make sure it works on Pro. And you should be good, because now like every other browser will kind of, it's just like a Pro wrapper. But like Leslie last week, she pointed out that she was building on Edge, and I was like, why are you building on Edge? No one uses Edge. Like, there's just certain scenarios to where, like, in terms of QA, it really depends. Some places will say we have to test on everything, on every browser and on mobile. Some will prioritize like, no, we'll be good if we just do like Chrome and Safari. Side note, Safari is a total joke of a browser. Every web dev hates catering to Safari. But it really just depends. But that's where things get really tricky, is because I'm a web dev, I'm building websites. My primary focus is on desktop while I'm building, and then you're asking, crap, we gotta test this all on mobile and make sure it renders correctly. That's kind of a reoccurring joke too, is you'll see people build these awesome websites or web applications, and it's like, oh, by the way, it does not work on mobile. It's not, it won't render on mobile. Like, sorry, forget the URL. That's the thing, but again, it just depends.
Generally, I feel like as well, it's very similar to size, or like my QA team. We only care about Edge and Chrome because Edge is the default browser for our enterprise PCs.
Yes.
And our largest like primary web app user base is people who are inside of our enterprise. And so they're probably using Edge. They might be using Chrome too, but like currently Edge is Chromium. It's based on Chromium, as is Google Chrome. Yeah, so, we don't see a lot of functional difference between the two. But then as soon as you say, okay, let's leave the enterprise users behind and let's target like the associate base, which is much larger. It's like 75% plus mobile Chrome. Is who's hitting our public facing sites. It's like 75% mobile Chrome, 16% mobile Safari. And then at that point, it does not, like the other browsers are just not volume enough for us to really care. But we have a team that can target that, we're aware of those things. And we're just starting to hire cloud engineers to handle some of the deployment stuff, like he was talking about. It's really dependent on, not just like does it come to care, but also that we have the people. It's having somebody who can have 40 hours a week just doing cloud engineering and deployment stuff is expensive, because those people are generally stupid smart. And very helpful when you've got them, but if you only have 5 devs and 1 QA, you probably don't have a budget for a DevOps engineer, and so your lead devs are probably gonna be doing it as well. Which is nice. It's nice if everybody can do everything, but that doesn't scale, in my opinion.
You know, but y'all for web development, which is the best way to start, that's the way to go, it's the smartest way to go. But you're like just scratching the surface of what you can do with any program that you write. Like this job is just like any other job. Like I'm a plumber, I do plumbing stuff, but there's different types of plumbers within that field. Same thing with web development or any type of software development. You have web developers, you have app developers, you have cloud engineers, then you have things like principal engineers, DevOps, so all these other things. There's so many different types of developers out there. But y'all started with the most common and the strongest foundation. Kind of just another thing to consider too is like we're talking about deployments a lot, probably way more than we have before this module, but you'll probably didn't know anything about deployments before this module. It's a good thing to know, but also realize that moving forward, that may not be something you have to deal with. At least whenever you are, if you get a job. Last year, it's just. So you're just scratching the surface of what you can do. So for now, like hopefully you'll take everything we taught you, and then you can go to whatever. But I think that's okay. Just so you're not hating it right here saying table posters on this.
I forgot QA engineering as like development.
That one's good, like, you know how it works. But what?
What are you saying?
I know how it works. Like, there's so many different types to where it's like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Like where deployment, like that's like, you have people who, that's all they do.
That's all we do.
When you're dealing with big applications though, like any video streamer and you use like a Spotify, a YouTube, Netflix, those are absolute necessities. Like
And then probably trying to find, hundreds of just the deployment engineers.
same thing with like QA automation engineers. When you're dealing with an app that big that many people use regularly, like you have to make sure that that product is always tip top shape, which is why all of these types of developers are.
Good, started. Congratulations. Who's gonna make the post on it?
Yeah, so the thing, so initially, was trying to do for the whole database, but it doesn't do that well. Anytime you can pull something, try to do something mobile, but, so yeah, once we put it on lines, we put it native, not. Let's look online, right, for the visual version. Yeah, yeah. And it could have been neon, it could have been anywhere you want to put it in, this case. Yes, once I have that, and then we actually put database on there.
All right,
Well, take a break. And be back at 12:30, and then I think for the rest of the day, we'll just work on our portfolio and then answer any questions that we might have. So, if you want to make your portfolio, and if you have anything that you're trying to include in your portfolio, that you help with, we can do that. And then, just any general questions or anything you might want to see. And then I'll be looking into the question y'all had earlier about that refactoring of that code in that, the lesson. Oh, freaking.
Right, your office is upstairs, right? Do you think they know that there's a podcast studio? Probably not. Yeah. I think it's like $20 an hour for it. Something like that, yeah.
I've been in there, I didn't. I guess, should I go break up the podcast? I'm like, oh,
They got it. Whenever I got here, that. Guy in the app was downstairs and he was like, something down. Right. So that's what you're telling me, see, so. Maybe not the only thing, but like the other spaces that. What do I do? Podcasting is, but. That's. This is what I'm gonna be there.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to start at 4. Yeah, keep pushing it back.
They really saying we're supposed to get like.
I don't know, I.
Am I crazy?
I think people are a little freaked out right now for the whole Texas thing.
Yeah, I mean, rightfully so, but. I read yesterday that, one of the meteorologists here said that it may not break 100 in July.
Okay.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
it would be nice and also weird.
Would.
I feel like July is usually that one month that historically, like I had make on, we're gonna get some sun.
August
Yeah.
is.
August, I feel like sneaks up on everyone because you're like, July's over.
Right.
But I think if you look at the historical data, like August is consistently the hottest month of the year.
It's like nearly the middle of the summer is like July and August are technically like.
Yeah.
The summer
Right.
months, like it's not June.
Yeah.
June is mostly spring, weirdly.
I feel like it goes April, a lot of rain, May,
Maybe
not as much rain,
Right.
but more like severe weather. And then June, not as much, but July, the first week of July, I feel like we always get rain, because I don't remember a single 4th of July where rain wasn't a threat.
Yeah,
And then August is like,
yeah,
yeah.
cause then it's humid. And because July is a little bit more watery.
But I started August, cause I just remember like being in school growing up, and that's when like sports starts back up again.
I was gonna screw my football players over because if it's cool in July, then August gonna hit, they're not gonna have any practice in the heat.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So at least for me growing up, like I played football, and that's whenever everything started to change, where it's like the I don't know who it was, if it was like the public school system or if it was like just laws in the state passed where it was like, no, you can no longer do 2 days.
Serious change board.
Like we have kids dying,
Really?
like we
Seriously?
cannot do 2 days, like, and they started limiting practice hours in the summer. And then after that, it was like, well, you can have a 4-hour practice, and then the next year they'll come back and say, you know what, you can't practice for more than 2 hours anymore, not this week.
Yeah.
So I don't know, well, it's just like that.
Come on, build character.
It does, but I remember for a stretch there, when I was in junior high, I remember hearing about like at least one kid a year in Oklahoma that was having culture. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But I just remember whenever I got to that point where it's like, yeah, we're hitting like 2 days far. They would start bringing stuff out like, you know, like the plastic giant trash bins, like they would bring those out filled with ice and water, and that was like a mushroom. Yeah. Where we would just have like kids getting in and out of those, all sweating.
Yeah.
And we were like, this is great, this is better than how it used to be. And now, like every school is like working on building facilities, so I don't see like how much has changed.
When it's going cross country, the coach would just find out and public big in and
Yeah.
have it goes to it.
Yeah.
And just be spraying.
Yeah, my favorite thing was like, they would find that spigot and they put a tap that just, you find the drill holes through it. So more than one person, like, you just run the water, shoots the water, out, you have more than one person using the spigot, but, yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, Washington. It's like half an hour south of here, 2 ways. And they have a facility now. Right. They have like 5 years.
I'm surprised that Tuttle did, I mean, they just built that brand new, well, they refurbished their stadiums, glorious,
Yeah.
amazing, but it's fully outdoor.
Yeah.
And they may have indoor things that I don't know about.
I don't think they do, but I know they got, what's his face? The, Paycom's owner, that's, yeah, that's what he's from, yeah. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's like the Richardson Family Stadium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure, that's what it's called, I didn't know that was.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until recently because I guess he's from there, and then he recently gave a lot of those to UCO.
Oh, yeah.
You go to UC, like all of their facilities are like that.
It's now like the Chad Richardson, I go to church right across the street from UCO, so their whole sports complex now is Chad Richardson. I think he's their single largest donor.
Yeah.
And it's like over 100 million over his lifetime, something crazy.
Yeah, he's got. But yeah, everyone's getting those things. It's a lot.
they'll be there remaking Spaceballs.
Yeah.
But kind of part two, it's not a new one?
Yeah.
Is it sequel? Oh, okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
Believe it, man? I know the video, or this, whatever I saw, was like, talking about how there's, been 6 Harry Potter and then blah, 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 but there's never, been, yes, a sequel.
Yeah. And Milford's is gonna do that, I'm like, that dude is. Oh. Hopefully they can, whatever they gotta do with it, and finish that up. It's not picture, and I was like, ooh, seems like movies would be a monumental effort to be in.
Did you watch Tulsa King? Tulsa Bunch of Love, right? He's,
Yeah.
70,
He's also there.
yeah, but he's 2 seasons so far, and he's doing it. It's funny, because it doesn't, like, he is his age in the movie. He's not like playing.
Oh,
a guy,
right. He's old guy.
Yeah, and so he sleeps with this lady, and she's like maybe 40, maybe. And so they do the thing, and then
Much younger woman.
yeah, and so she goes, well, how old are you anyway? And he tells her, and she goes, it was really good. But he's old. Yeah.
I think we're wrong. Yeah. That's why he looks so old. So it's all that, abuse.
All right. We'll get back to it. Did anybody have any questions? Anything like that? Nope. Yes.
So when we deploy, does it just stay like on the internet until we like delete it, I guess?
Yeah, so I don't know Rosell's rules for it, but yeah, essentially until you take it off, it's gonna be live.
To get hacked.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, but yeah, so essentially until you deactivate it yourself, it's gonna be live.
Well, I guess honestly, until they get hacked. Because if they get hacked, your stuff could be shut down.
That's true.
Or a physical, something happens, like a server explodes.
Yep. So, I mean, it's possible to where something can happen and then, you know, they lose your deployment or something and you'd have to redeploy and reconfigure it, all that stuff. In the extreme cases.
When do they start charging? You have, there's like a free account, right? And then there's a free account.
Yeah, I don't know how their tiers work. You typically,
It's like 5 gigabytes of data, or not data, but. Storage. If you have like a really large application, like several, you might get the tier, but for your local stuff. You know.
Mhm.
I say local, sorry, for your like personal stuff. Speaking of rare cases, the cloud or the GCP one I find a couple weeks ago, all right, I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, the world shut down. So when we rely completely on these services that are provided, like stuff can happen, right? That's why there's kind of a little push right now to go back on-prem as it's called, so to actually run your own servers on your own premises and not rely on these cloud providers. Because that's how it used to be, before there was the cloud.
That's why, when we had that, networking thing, I was wondering, like, that guy he builds like a server, right?
Yep.
So. I guess if you're like a business, you build your own thing, or do you like outsource that to a guy like him?
Well, if you're buying space on his server, which would be making a cloud, okay? Cloud is just somebody else's computer. I used to have this insurance, but, yeah, so you're renting space on that server. So, you know, there may be 50 businesses like that have this little space on that server. So if like somebody were to come in and like set that server on fire or beat or whatever it's gone, you're gone, yeah. Which is why, and this is getting a little deeper, but they do, it's not called duplication, but basically they'll put like, so you'll notice when you selected server, whatever, it said like, you know, US East, blah, 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 Washington, or whatever it was, yeah. So it'll put one there, and then you can duplicate it, so you'll have one there, you may have one in Europe, you may have one in South America or whatever. So that way, if one does go down, you've got still a lot. And that also helps with wherever your customers are. So if your customers are like primary in South America, and yours is hosted in Russia, it's gonna take a little bit more time to get there, right? Because I mean, it has to actually travel through the wires under the sea, else. So, you know,
As GitHub and did, that's pretty much server, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Server stuff.
Yeah,
There's some-
yeah. Yeah, it's all servers, like, it's take away the magic of it all, it's just machines with wiring sitting somewhere.
Have they guys hacked ever, or?
I'm sure they have, I don't know that it's been as big as the Google thing was, but it's definitely digital. A lot of things that we take for granted as like software developers, is we don't really worry too much about security. We assume, okay, Google's got hacked or whatever, but
There's trade-offs, yeah.
there are big trade-offs, yeah. And if you do run it like yourself on your, say you wanna host it on your computer, you can totally do that, run a server like we've been doing locally. And then you can, expose the port, you know, so people can actually see what's there.
How safe is that, right? Because the
Exactly.
network technology can.
Yeah.
do on your computer, so-
Right, so at that point, you gotta go, okay, I need to, you know, make sure this is secure, so I can learn about security a little bit. You know, should I be exposing the port to the open internet? So there's a lot of things to do, right? So. That's it, like network engineers, security engineers, whole different beast.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but the internet is literally connected worldwide through cables. So they run the underground, the under ocean cables that are on the ocean floor, and that's how it has to connect. So that's why, like Brian was saying, like typically when, like if you send like if somebody's getting a picture from a website, they're going to your website and you got pictures on it, it's usually storing them on the server that's like closer to them so that they can, if a lot of people are going there, it's just gonna retrieve it a lot faster.
I think I just saw that Meta's running new cables. In Mother Ocean.
Are they?
Whatever they're called. Yeah, can you imagine like doing maintenance on those? Like you're a network engineer, they're like, all right, you're going to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. I know, I watched like a whole little like mini documentary on it and how like they have to like go in and repair them constantly and it's all crazy. Like the boat's like connected to the ground, continue like yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Okay. And then okay, and then we did the APIs with in this module, correct? We made an API folder and created some routes to be able to hit the API folder. How we did that?
For the submission form,
Oh,
the demo form, or the demo.
I think it would have, did we do that on the? Oh,
I remember discussing it,
okay. So oh, that'll be something I'll just go over real quick just in case. So you can have your application expose its own API, and it's similar to how you are handling the navigation for your application. So that way, just like when we were hitting the Pokemon API, we'd hit that and we'll get some data back. You can essentially create your own within the application. So if I was to create a API, oops, I did file again, oops. So create a API folder, and you can pretty much do this in like the application you just deployed if you want to follow along. Or if you just want to watch, that's fine. Just so you can have an idea of it. So in the app folder, we're going to create an API folder, and this is how Next.js handles it's part of its routing system, right? So just like how we had the page, this one we're going to do is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be route.js. So route.js. All right. And then I always forget it's going to be the. Do we have to export it? Let me double check. I lost my mouse. Boo, 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 boo. Okay. So yes, we do export it. So this one, since it's gonna be an API call, right? We don't wanna, we wanted to make, we wanna make it a async function because we want it to run while whatever other processes are happening, finish up. And then, so it's gonna be the export async function, and then it's gonna be your method. So if it's gonna be like a get, it's gonna be a get in all caps. And then I do not know why it's doing that. Okay, there it goes. And then for our parameter, we're gonna do request. We're gonna put request. So that's there is gonna be our request that it's getting. So when it hits that path, it's just gonna take whatever payload that it's getting in, and we're gonna be able to do something with that. So then your brackets just like a normal function. And then I know, because I'm pretty sure we talked about like the use params. This one is gonna be a little bit different. So we're gonna do we're not gonna do the use params. We're just gonna do destructured param. So we're gonna get our request, our parameters, our request parameters, and then it's gonna be do request. No. New, not because URL. Sorry, URL. So it's gonna be request.url. So that's getting the when it's hitting this API route, it's just getting that URL so it can get them parameters. And then we can break down based on what we expect for our parameters to be. So we expected that one of our parameters is gonna be test. We can declare as test, and then params dot get, and then test. I think it is. It is. I want to say it's, yeah, it's a string, just like how we do with our local storage. Okay. Sorry, the screen is tearing. I don't know why it's doing that. is. Let's see. Hopefully that helps. Okay. I lost my mouse. Okay. And then we can, so this is, so we got we declare our variables and all that stuff and our parameters that we're looking for. And then this we could handle any logic that we want to handle. If we wanted to do anything in particular, whether if it was to go. So this would be like this is the public facing API, right? So if you need to go to the client or the server to get some sensitive, or yeah, to like if you had to use like sensitive information and run like a sensitive process, you could do that on the server, return that data, and then you could return it to the client as well. So here we would return. I just had the word and already forgot it instantly. So return. Goodness. No, because we shouldn't have to report. Not the next request. Don't. Sorry. I always mix myself up since there's ways to do this. So we return response. There it goes. So return response. Return response for us. That's dot JSON. Well, I always forget the easy parts. And then we're passing this as structured program. Okay. So we're looking for so this is gonna be our response. This is what's gonna get returned. The data is gonna get returned. So you can, so this would be, you can return like an object, key value pairs. Those are like, oops, and that should be a string. Can be whatever you want. And then save the file. And since this is, oh, okay. Okay, so then that should get us to return a value. So when we, oh, there it goes. Okay, so our local host is already active. So when we type in uh-oh. Oh, let's do, I might have to do, I don't think it does anything. So we might have to make a folder and then put our route in that folder, I believe. I don't think you can do it on the root of the API. So let's test it. I am still getting a, oops, wrong one.
What are you expecting to see?
Oh, did I not say, hold on. I should see my little message that I created. And it said this is a message, or this is a test message. So I did my async. So we got our get, so we're making the API test route.js, and it should be hitting it. So we get making a get request, and I haven't put any params in there yet. All right, so I haven't used any params. Let me make sure I saved it. Hold up, let me make sure the right one's running. It is. Oh, cause yeah, I forgot, I'm doing NPM start, so it's running off our production build, which I haven't built the production yet, so it hasn't uh recognized that code. So when you make changes, you want to make sure that you run your build again, or else you won't see your changes. Because if you're using npm run start, so then now even with start, we should see our changes. Oh, I didn't even. Next server app API. Now we're getting the error. Oh, no, maybe the which one?
And brands. You icon it that.
This one, the
Test is equal to brands.
oh, because it's unused probably. That's oh yeah, okay. Or no, did I do something wrong? Why is it? Oh, no, because even if I don't, okay. Yeah, it's probably because it's unused, which is a weird error for unused. Okay. Run. Is it okay? I was gonna start. Okay, now building now npm run start. Okay, there it goes. So we got our test key, and then this is the test message. And if we were to have more, then we could do it pretty and make it organized, just like any other API call. And then, so what's that? If I was to commit this to my main branch of my deployed project, then we should be able to access this API API call on our deployed application. So you should see, and then hold on. So we go ahead and redeploy. Oh, now it updated. Yours worked?
Well,
Oh, mine. And then it works? Oh, cause I was just looking at the time, it said 1 hour ago, so I guess I thought it was. Huh. So the API and then test. Yep. So that's pulling that from the live application. I guess you can't trust everything. Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the 1 hour ago, so I thought it didn't work. And then I seen that it recognized it because it said it was out of date, but okay. Got it. Thank you. All right, and then so you see, you can access that API on a production build. So that way, this is useful because if you want to run certain functions on an API call, or if you were making an application and you wanted some things to be available so that like clients can pull, certain data from your application, that's something you can do as well. Or if you had one application, if you had like a one application that needs to speak to another application, this is also a one way to be able to get, have them communicate with each other. Um, this is public facing, so you just want to make sure that you set up your security for that. And I would say that this is just like for something that I would say that isn't gonna need as much security anyway, because there's better API um building tools that you can use. And typically if they were gonna need that, they would your 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 team would typically either have somebody who specializes in building APIs or reach out to somebody in that case, because they can be pretty, what's the word? They can be pretty risky if not set up correctly. Any questions about that or anything?
Thinking about that. Thinking that some of the old one, those like exporting stuff to the database. I think now. How do you recognize something as an idea? Is it when you see like export the same function get? So that's an idea. Because I remember asking Chad. So is this an idea? Or
So you would really need the context for the most part, because I mean, just if you know Next.js, then you know that's because the way the get is, because that's the method, right? Get, and then it's all caps. That would tell you, you would have an idea that that's an API calling in Next.js, but there's like if you're just looking at code, yeah, it would typically be like something configured, and it would be labeled as such, So you typically see like how this is in the API and then a test folder. Yeah, but that's just Next specific on how we set up our APIs. But like there's different API tools out there. So there might if you in terms of like making an API call, you would usually see like a fetch with that. So like if you were making a API call to an external system, it would usually be with a fetch. Even if you're using your own API, you would use a fetch too, a lot of times, but also Next handles the internal API a little bit differently than the external when you're making that call.
The API that he's building right now, that's what you're gonna talk to, right? So that's like the Pokemon API. So remember on the Pokemon API in our JavaScript code, we use fetch, and then we said, go do this thing. So that was a get request, right? This was get, post, others. So he made a get, so we could just use fetch, put this URL in, then it's gonna give us back that object there. If it was a post, like we wanted to pass, we wanted to update something or create something, like in our database, for example, then we would do a fetch, but then we got post, we have the header for the whole thing, become post, right? So this is like the end that we're hitting from our.
Yeah, because it's gonna, if you make a call to an API with no method specified, it's gonna default to a GET. So that's why we're able to do it this way, because it knows to handle it, to make it a GET and then go grab it. And then, so, where am I at? Lost. So that's why, like, in that same file, we would, where'd it go? We would, so for our route, so, like the API test, our test route can have more than one method associated, right? So we might have a get, but then with the get request, you might want to pull different data based on what, the parameters were for it. So for the, like, if I was to comment out the test params, and then I would be able to use that, grab that parameter and then input it in my message, which I think is, as long as we use it, it should not be an issue. Start. So I'm gonna go ahead and run. Okay. Well, I already knew it was gonna work, so I don't know why. Force habit. Word. So then if we have a parameter has equals, oh, did not mean to do that. So have it rebuild. Oh, it's because it's a specific. Wait a minute. No wonder. That's why that was my fault. I was looking at the wrong thing. All right, let's see this. Dun, dun, dun. Is it ready? To break something again. A 500. Okay. Rams. So we got our question mark, and we're looking for our test equals. It does not like that for whatever reason. Okay, I'm not sure why it's fighting me on that. But I know that is. So yeah. But anyway, that's just the example of the API, make an API call on your own URL. But I'm not sure why it's not working, but we won't get too deep into it, trying to troubleshoot it. I know that's the correct syntax for it and setup. But do we have any questions in general? Any other questions? Anything? Nope. So we got and I forgot to ask ahead of time, before class, but was anybody wanting to show what they had so far for their portfolio? Huh? Oh, yours deployed? Yeah. Got you. That. All right. Okay. That is nice. And I didn't pull it up on the right screen. Here we go.
Nice.
Uh-oh. Yo. Don't fear the killer height. Yep.
If you don't fear the repo.
Yep. See, this is good. I like this. Not doing too much, not too crazy, right? Huh? Yeah, the
That's good.
Yes, wait.
Is it two of them or is one thing?
I like that. And then what did you do for, is this just the image?
It's a SVG.
SVG? Okay. I imagine.
That's when you use AI.
For the resume portion?
Oh, and you got the
So that I did is, so this, it takes your browser's built in PDF keyword, and just place it that way. If your browser doesn't have one, then it's just, it's a little message there saying download.
Yep. That's cool.
You know when you go to like, those websites, sorry, conference. Yeah, but anyway, if you go to a website and all those stupid ads everywhere, like you pretty much use those ads to sell a life. And it's running, it's basically a little website running.
Everyone used to use iPhrase.
All the time. And You can even, like, if you were to pull in a YouTube video, it's gonna make it an iframe. Okay,
It's great.
Oh, yeah, this is awesome.
Awesome.
these are all pictures you took yourself? Those are some nice pictures, I know. Yeah.
But yeah, I never started if it's still on. It's like,
Yeah.
Where was this one at with all the snow?
that's Sun Valley Island.
I would be so sleepy all the time.
The third one, not like a private battery?
It was actually botanical gardens.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, wow. Cool. I like that.
So he goes mobile sizing. This one I got to go to single row photos.
Okay, computer, we're not gonna do this.
That renders is the main one. I just got rid of all of the website.
You say, oh, no.
Yeah, go about. I just got rid of that. So I'm gonna work on getting that as a converter maybe.
Cool. I like that. Made it responsive and everything. Okay. Nice. Thank you. Showing. Would anybody else like to show off their portfolio? No? That's fine.
So it was powerful.
Be honest, yeah. Be honest, because I'm up to the point of this. Alright. When it comes to sharing your projects. Or anything that you build as you're getting your feet under you, like throw out the idea of being embarrassed, like throw out the idea that that it's gonna be bad. I hate to break it to you, it is gonna be bad. Oftentimes, you'll see a lot of people who share their first projects purposefully make them very embarrassing, very bad. That's why you see like a lot of like chatbots. Whole idea behind it is, I'm gonna build something embarrassing because the code behind it is embarrassing. So, moving forward, like, don't be ashamed of any of that. Like, the sooner you can embrace the fact that like, I am new to this, I'm still getting my feet under me. Like, the better, because then you kind of rip the Band-Aid off, you don't have fear of like showing off your projects. Because oftentimes that's how people miss out on most of like these opportunities, is too afraid to share their work. You'll see the person who like puts their stuff out there is more likely to land a job or to gain more eyes on their portfolio because they're putting themselves out there questioning the work. So don't at all feel any fear or any shame behind sharing, because you're gonna miss out on a lot of opportunities.
That is true. Plus, I promise you, nobody's really gonna look at your website, your portfolio, and be like, "Oh, I can't believe he was this bad starting out." They're gonna be like, "Oh, wow, okay." They first of all, they're gonna be impressed that you even, have those projects to keep track of anyway. And then, what was it? I lost my cursor. And then, yeah, it's just no one's judging your project as a project. They're looking at what you're capable of, like what you learn, how you're able to apply, new things that you learn, and then, seeing if they're on here, they're probably more worried about who you are as a person, and then just a basic overview of your skill set. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then, okay. Thank you, Eric. Okay, and one more thing.
I can show what I have, but it's gonna be like, this is what I was trying to do, but
Okay, that's fine. Let's see. Is it
No, I'm gonna, I don't have the, but
it's not, you don't have to deploy it right now. If,
it's just, it's still.
no, it's just what you have so far, so.
It's nothing new, like, cause, it was, I was getting.
Oh. I don't have all of them. So you can connect to, or you,
Well,
to the wire, switch wire. Oh, yeah. I blame myself.
oh, okay,
You got it?
it says he's not gonna.
Oh, do the. You know, if
Just one thing,
Yes,
just one page.
just screenshot of it and throw it.
well, it's not.
That's fine, it's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Uh. I can hear you. My work.
Do a command spacebar to do spotlight search, static screenshot. These are one of those. Okay, wait, this is the screenshot, that's the screenshot.
Just pause it inside that.
First slide.
So this is it, right?
Yeah, you can hold that. Or the head of the then just go find it, and we can just have, work together. So. Just, next to.
It's- Yeah. You know what, it's because I'm in my year school, and so it's kind of like, well, there's a big deal that makes it, deal that makes it. Makes my really cool. I see it, that's a great. Is it 18 for?
That's one.
Oh.
Wait.
I'll show you what guy else finding. Mirror random.
Mm-hmm.
We had a very simple page. And I thought that was. something I can do, but then I realize it's not that easy. How do you do this, Michelle?
Do, command space bar.
Space bar. That's Michelle. And
You get like that.
Off to a good start.
oh, okay, So
So-
this second here is what I'm trying to come up with. I just put it on the slide.
You were born in Japan?
No,
Oh,
no, I'm trying to do something.
oh, that name is way different, that's hilarious.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to see, that's so simple, it's like just one page.
Huh?
Hell, that. Fine.
I mean, cause you're gonna have to,
Now, yeah, now
Place yeah.
creating the second page, that's where I started this struggle.
Creating, oh, like,
My first page, the first one is like just an intro,
uh-huh.
and then when you click another page, then it's gonna be like, oh, these are my projects, and this is. that's-
Oh, you just haven't added that.
Yeah, because
Oh.
now what I've learned is that every, so see how I had it? I had my folder structure wrong, so introduction, it has that. And then if I want a portfolio bit, like that needed to have its own like page.tsx.
Mhm.
And then if I wanted to add a portfolio, I guess if that needs its own also page.tsx. I think that's what I'm finding out.
Yes.
Every page needs its own. I don't even say components.
So it's looking, so Next is looking for that page.jsx to render. So if it's going in the folder and then it's looking if that folder has a page.jsx and then it's gonna create a route for that.
Yeah, so that's why I was like, it wasn't bringing the stuff out.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's why I was like, I got heavy on the whole one, because I was trying to see, okay, this is how they make the invoices show up.
Mhm.
So I can do that. And maybe make it happen. Like copy how they do the invoices.
Yep.
on My project.
Yeah, and then so I can tell you, cause the way you do that is gonna involve how you set your layout up, your layout file, and then you would, if you're gonna wanna maintain the same,
It doesn't have to
Shape.
be like that.
but yeah, well, not like this, but like if you were gonna maintain like the same, if something similar, then you would structure it with your layout file, and then you will render, you have your children, and then your components will render based on that layout as well. So that'd be a way that you could tackle that. But yeah, just to add that page.jsx, then you'd be able to do that. But yeah. On the right track, is that what your color theme is gonna be, the dark with the,
No, that's-
you're just having like a little placeholder?
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Yep. We're good. All right.
That's all the teaching, done, learn it all. Really? Will you, in just a couple minutes, will you huddle, with Leslie, so she can watch?
Yes,
She's gonna-
I will. Got you. Let me get out of here.
You can
real
kill
quick.
it.
No. Oh, let me kill the screen.
First thing, today is Eric's last day with us. We're going to Chicago.